The vast chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved about, their voices a mix of chirps, growls, and whistles. In the center, on a raised platform, sat the council members. They looked down on everyone else, just like they looked down on the newest race to join galactic society, humans. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth stood near the back, trying not to feel small. It wasn't easy. Some aliens towered over her, while others floated in the air. All of them seemed more at home here than she did. "Look at the human," a voice sneered in Galactic Common. "So soft and weak." Chen didn't turn to see who spoke. She was used to it by now. The aliens never missed a chance to mock Earth and its people. Up on the platform, High Counselor Zixthar raised his tentacles for silence. The room quieted down. "We gather today to discuss the human problem," Zixthar said. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Once again, they ask for a seat on this council." Laughter erupted from the crowd. Chen felt her face grow hot, but she kept her expression neutral. "Let us review the facts," Zixthar continued. "Humans have been part of galactic society for barely 50 years. Their technology is primitive. Their military might is a joke. They have nothing to offer us." Cheers and applause filled the air. Chen clenched her fists at her sides. "But High Counselor," a voice called out. It belonged to Krax, the Vorkun representative. "What of their request for protection? The Zarkol Empire threatens their outer colonies." Zixthar waved a tentacle dismissively. "The humans should learn to defend themselves. We are not their guardians." "Perhaps we could offer some assistance," Krax suggested. "A show of good faith." The High Counselor's eyes narrowed. "And why would we do that, Krax? Do you have some special interest in these primitives?" Krax shrank back in his seat. "No, High Counselor. I merely thought." "You thought wrong," Zixthar snapped. "Humans must earn their place in the galaxy. They are not children to be coddled." Chen had heard enough. She stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "With respect, High Counselor, Earth does not ask for coddling. We ask for fair treatment, as members of this galactic community." All eyes turned to her. Some aliens looked shocked, others amused. Zixthar's expression was one of pure disdain. "You dare speak without permission, human," he growled. Chen stood her ground. "I speak for my people, who have been unfairly judged and dismissed. We may be new to your galaxy, but we are not without value." "Value?" Zixthar laughed. "What value do you bring? Your ships are slow and weak. Your weapons are primitive. You can barely defend a single star system, let alone contribute to galactic security." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Chen felt her resolve weaken, but she pushed on. "Our value lies not just in military might," she said. "Humans are adaptable, creative. We solve problems in ways you haven't considered. Given time and fair treatment, we could be valuable allies." For a moment, silence fell over the chamber. Then, slowly, laughter began to build. It started with a few chuckles, then grew into a roar. The entire council was laughing at her, at Earth, at humanity's dreams of standing tall among the stars. Zixthar's voice cut through the laughter. "You amuse us, human. Perhaps that is your true value, entertainment. Now, return to your place and be silent. This council has real matters to discuss." Defeated, Chen stepped back. As she did, she caught Krax's eye. The Vorquin nodded slightly, a gesture of, what? Respect. Sympathy. It didn't matter. In this chamber, Earth stood alone. As the council moved on to other topics, Chen's mind raced. This couldn't go on. Humanity needed to prove its worth, to show the galaxy they weren't to be trifled with. But how? Little did the council know, back on Earth, plans were already in motion. In secret shipyards, hidden from prying alien eyes, humanity was building something that would change everything. A ship like no other, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The Galactic Council might laugh now, but their laughter would soon turn to stunned silence. Earth was done being the galaxy's punching bag. The time was coming for humanity to show its true strength. As Chen left the council chamber, her steps were heavy, but her spirit was unbroken. "Enjoy your laughter while you can," she thought. "The day is coming when you'll all see what humans are truly capable of." The stage was set. The galaxy's great powers had made their disdain clear. Now, it was humanity's turn to shock them all. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Station, her eyes fixed on the stars. Behind her, holographic displays showed the movements of alien ships near Earth's solar system. The Galactic Council's vessels were getting bolder, pushing closer to human territory every day. Another incident. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Park, her aide. "The Zarkol destroyed one of our research outposts in the Epsilon sector." Sarah's jaw tightened. Casualties. 15 dead, 30 injured. The council claims it was an accident. "An accident," Sarah repeated, her voice cold. "Just like the last 3 accidents this month." She turned to face the command center, where dozens of officers worked at their stations. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew war was coming, but Earth wasn't ready. "Not yet. Send a formal protest to the council," Sarah ordered, "and get me a secure line to the president." As Sarah waited for the call to connect, her mind raced. The Galactic Council's provocations were increasing. They were testing Earth's defenses, probing for weaknesses. And right now, there were too many to count. The president's face appeared on the screen, looking tired and worried. "Admiral Chen, what's the situation?" Sarah gave a quick report on the latest attack. The president listened, his frown deepening. "Can we retaliate?" he asked. Sarah shook her head. "Not without starting a war we can't win. Not yet." The president sighed. "The people are demanding action, Sarah. I can't keep telling them to be patient." "I know, sir, but we need more time. Project Thunderchild isn't ready." At the mention of the top-secret project, the president's eyes darted around, as if checking for eavesdroppers. "How much longer?" 2 months, maybe 3. Dr. Patel says they're close to a breakthrough on the shield technology. "We might not have 2 months," the president warned. "The council is meeting again next week. Ambassador Wei reports they're discussing sanctions against Earth." Sarah's fists clenched. Sanctions? For what? For being a destabilizing influence in the galaxy. The president's laugh was bitter. "Apparently, our very existence is a problem for them." As they talked, an alert flashed on one of the nearby screens. Lieutenant Park rushed over to check it. "Admiral," he called out, his voice urgent. "We're picking up a large energy signature entering the system. It's a council dreadnought." Sarah's blood ran cold. A dreadnought was a ship of war, larger and more powerful than anything in Earth's fleet. Its presence here was no accident. "Mr. President," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I need to go. We have a situation." The president nodded grimly. "Do what you have to, Admiral. Keep us safe." As the call ended, Sarah turned to her crew. "Battle stations, I want every ship we have on high alert, and get me a direct line to that dreadnought." The command center burst into action. Alarms blared as officers rushed to their posts. On the main view screen, the massive form of the council dreadnought appeared, its weapons ports glowing with barely contained energy. "Channel open, Admiral," Lieutenant Park reported. Sarah took a deep breath, then spoke. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth Defense. You have entered restricted space. State your purpose or withdraw immediately." There was a long pause. Then a voice replied, dripping with contempt. "This is Captain Zixkar of the Galactic Council. We are here to conduct inspections, to ensure you primitives aren't developing forbidden technologies." Sarah's eyes narrowed. This was a blatant provocation, a show of force meant to intimidate Earth. "We do not recognize your authority to conduct inspections in our sovereign territory." Sarah replied. "Withdraw your vessel immediately." Captain Zixcar laughed. "Or what, human? Will you attack us with your pitiful ships? Please, give us a reason to put you in your place once and for all." Sarah wanted nothing more than to order her fleet to open fire, but she knew they stood no chance against a dreadnought. "Not yet. This is your final warning," she said instead. "Withdraw, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war." There was silence from the dreadnought. Tense seconds ticked by as Sarah and her crew waited, fingers hovering over weapon controls. Finally, the alien ship began to turn. "Very well, humans. Enjoy your delusions of importance while you can." The Council's patience grows thin. As the dreadnought retreated, Sarah allowed herself a small sigh of relief. But she knew this was far from over. The Council was pushing harder, testing Earth's limits. "Get me the Chief of Staff," she ordered. "Tell him it's time to accelerate Project Thunderchild. We're running out of time." The Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly buzzed with tension. Representatives from 100 alien races filled the tiered seats, their eyes fixed on the central podium. Today's meeting wasn't just another boring session of galactic politics. Today, the Council would decide Earth's fate. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the back, her face a mask of calm. But inside, her heart raced. Everything hinged on what happened here. High Counselor Zixthar took the podium, his tentacles waving for silence. The room fell quiet. "Esteemed members of the Assembly," he began, his voice booming through the hall. "We are here to address the human problem once and for all." Chen's fists clenched at her sides. Problem. That's all they ever saw humans as. Zixthar continued, his words dripping with disdain. "For too long, we have tolerated these primitives in our midst. They pollute our space lanes with their crude ships. They disrupt our economies with their inferior goods. And now, they dare to build weapons that threaten the peace we have maintained for millennia." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Chen saw nods and heard whispers of support for the High Counselor's words. "I propose," Zixthar declared, "that we strip Earth of its membership in this assembly. Furthermore, we will impose strict sanctions, limiting their space travel and trade until they learn their place in the galactic order." The hall erupted in cheers and applause. Chen felt sick. This was worse than she had feared. "But before we vote," Zixthar said, raising a tentacle for silence, "let us hear from the humans themselves. Perhaps they have some pitiful defense to offer." All eyes turned to Chen. She took a deep breath and walked to the podium, her steps echoing in the sudden quiet. "Honored members of the Assembly," she began, her voice steady despite her anger. "Earth has been a loyal member of this community for 50 years. We have followed your laws, traded fairly, and sought only peace." Laughter interrupted her. It started as a few snickers, then grew into a roar of mockery. "Peace," a Zarkol representative shouted. "Is that why you build warships in secret?" "We've seen your pitiful attempts at defense," another alien called out. "You couldn't fight your way out of the nebula." Chen tried to continue, but her words were drowned out by the jeers and insults. She looked to Zixthar, expecting him to call for order. Instead, the High Counselor was smiling, enjoying the spectacle. That's when Chen saw it. This wasn't a hearing. It was a show trial. The decision had already been made. As the laughter and insults continued, something snapped inside Chen. 50 years of humiliation, of being treated like children, of watching Earth bend over backwards to please these arrogant aliens. It all came to a head. She slammed her hand on the podium, the sharp crack silencing the room. "Enough," Chen shouted, her voice ringing through the hall. "You mock us. You belittle us. You treat us like we're nothing. But let me tell you something." She paused, her eyes sweeping the room, meeting the gaze of every alien who dared to look at her. "Humanity has faced challenges you can't even imagine. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars. We've gone from horse-drawn carts to starships in less than 3 centuries. And every time someone told us we couldn't do something, we proved them wrong. The room was dead silent now. Even Zixthar looked taken aback by her outburst. "You think you can push us around?" Chen continued, her voice low and dangerous. "You think you can bully us into submission? Let me be clear. Earth will not bow. We will not break. And if you push us too far, you'll learn exactly what humans are capable of." With that, Chen turned on her heel and strode towards the exit. The entire assembly watched in stunned silence as she reached the doors. There, she paused and looked back. "Earth withdraws from this farce of an assembly. Do what you will. But remember this day. Remember that you had a chance for true partnership, and you threw it away because of your pride and fear." The doors slammed behind her, the sound echoing like a thunderclap through the silent hall. Back on her ship, Chen's hands shook as she contacted Earth. "Mr. President," she said, her voice hoarse. "It's done. They've made their choice." The president's face was grim on the view screen. "Then we've made ours. Initiate Project Thunderchild. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." As Chen's ship sped away from the assembly world, alarms began to blare. On every scanner and sensor array across the sector, a massive energy signature had just appeared. Humanity's secret weapon was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. Alarms blared throughout the Galactic Assembly Station. Aliens of all shapes and sizes rushed to viewports, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. On every screen, a single image dominated. A massive ship, unlike anything they had ever seen before. High Counselor Zixthar burst onto the command deck, his tentacles flailing. "What is that thing?" he demanded. A junior officer, his scales pale with shock, stammered out a response. It appears to be a ship, High Counselor, of human origin." "Impossible," Zixthar spat. "The humans don't have technology like this. They're primitives." But the evidence was right before their eyes. The human ship dwarfed even the largest Galactic Council vessels. Its hull gleamed within strange, shifting metal that seemed to absorb light. Massive weapon ports lined its sides, each one larger than an entire human shuttle. On the bridge of this behemoth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood tall, a small smile playing on her lips. Around her, the crew of Earth's first true Dreadnought worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. "Status report," Sarah ordered. "All systems operational, Admiral," her XO responded. "Shield strength at 100%. Weapons hot and ready." Sarah nodded, then turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to the assembly station. Wide broadcast." The officer complied, and Sarah stepped forward. Her image appeared on screens throughout the station and on every council ship in the sector. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she began, her voice calm but firm. "You are looking at the EDF Thunderchild, humanity's first Dreadnought-class vessel." In the assembly hall, the gathered representatives watched in stunned silence. Many of them had been laughing at Earth just hours ago. Now, their laughter had turned to fear. Sarah continued, "For 50 years, we have endured your mockery, your belittlement, your constant reminders of how primitive and weak you thought we were. But in secret, we were building, learning, preparing." The camera panned across the Thunderchild's bridge, showing technology far beyond what the Council thought humans capable of. Holographic displays, neural interfaces, weapons that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. "This ship," Sarah explained, "is powered by a miniature star of our own creation. Its hull is made of smart metal that can repair itself and adapt to any attack. Our shields can withstand the force of a supernova. And our weapons." She paused, letting the tension build. "Well, let's just say they make your best cannons look like children's toys." In the Council Command Center, Zixthar's face had turned an unhealthy shade of gray. "Impossible," he muttered again, but there was no conviction in his voice. One of his advisors leaned in, whispering urgently, "High Counselor, We're detecting energy readings off the scale. Whatever weapons they have, they're not bluffing." Zixthar swallowed hard. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. Back on the Thunderchild, Sarah's expression hardened. "We don't want war," she declared. "We never did. All we ever wanted was to be treated as equals, to be given a fair chance to prove ourselves." Her eyes seemed to bore into every alien watching. "But if you force our hand, make no mistake, we will fight, and we will win." She let that sink in for a moment before continuing. "So here's what's going to happen. The sanctions against Earth are lifted. Immediately, all hostile actions against our colonies cease, and the Galactic Council will open negotiations for Earth's full membership, not as a junior partner, but as an equal." Sarah paused, then added with steel in her voice, "You have 1 hour to comply. If you refuse, or if a single shot is fired at this ship or any human vessel, we will take it as an act of war, and you will learn firsthand what this ship can do." With that, the transmission cut off. In the assembly hall, in the council chambers, on ships throughout the sector, stunned silence reigned. The humans, those primitives they had mocked for so long, had just revealed a weapon that changed everything. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in an instant. As the Thunderchild hung in space, a silent guardian of Earth's new status, the Council raced to respond. They had 1 hour to swallow their pride and accept a new reality, or face the consequences. The clock was ticking, and humanity waited, ready at last to take its rightful place among the stars. The Galactic Council's main chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 100 alien races shouted and argued, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear and anger. At the center of it all stood High Counselor Zixthar, his tentacles waving frantically as he tried to restore order. "Silence," he bellowed, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "We must respond to this human threat immediately." Slowly, the noise died down. All eyes turned to Zixthar, waiting for his plan. "The humans have revealed their true colors," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "They claim to want peace, but they threaten us with this abomination of a warship. We cannot allow this to stand." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, but not everyone was convinced. Krax, the Vorquin representative, stood up. "High Counselor, with respect, perhaps we should consider their terms. The humans have clearly surpassed our expectations. A war could be disastrous." Zixthar's eyes narrowed. "Are you a coward, Krax, or perhaps a human sympathizer?" Krax stood his ground. "I am neither. I am simply being realistic. We don't know what that ship is capable of." "Then we will find out," Zixthar declared. He turned to his military advisor. "Summon the fleet. All of it. We will show these humans the true might of the Galactic Council." As the orders went out, ships began to appear around the assembly station. Cruisers, destroyers, battleships, the pride of a dozen alien races, gathering for war. Aboard the Thunderchild, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet assemble. Her face was grim, but determined. "They're really going to do it," she muttered. "They're going to fight." Her XO nodded. "Looks that way, Admiral. Council fleet numbers are growing by the minute. We'll be outnumbered at least 20 to 1. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Numbers aren't everything, XO. Especially not today." She turned to her crew, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Battle stations, everyone. This is not a drill. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." As klaxons blared and crew members rushed to their posts, Sarah couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness. This wasn't what they wanted. But if the Council wanted a fight, by God, they'd get one. Back in the Council chamber, Zixthar watched with satisfaction as his fleet grew. Thousands of ships, the most powerful armada ever assembled in galactic history. Surely this would be enough to crush one human vessel, no matter how advanced. "Send the humans our response," he ordered. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally and hand over their ship. Otherwise, we will open fire." As the message was transmitted, tension filled every ship, every station, every planet in the sector. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. On the Thunderchild, Sarah received the Council's message. She read it aloud to her crew, then looked up, her eyes blazing with determination. "Well," she said, "I guess we have our answer. Helm, move us into position. Weapons, stand by. Shields at maximum." The massive human ship began to move, its engines glowing with otherworldly energy. It took up position between Earth and the Council fleet, a lone guardian against a sea of enemies. In the Council chamber, Zixthar watched the Thunderchild's movements with growing unease. Despite the overwhelming numbers on his side, something didn't feel right. The humans were too calm, too confident. "High Counselor," his advisor interrupted his thoughts. "We're detecting massive energy buildups from the human ship. Whatever weapons they have, they're powering them up." Zixthar swallowed hard. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Had he made a terrible mistake? But it was too late to back down now. His pride, the Council's pride, was on the line. He steeled himself and gave the order he knew might change the galaxy forever. "All ships," he commanded, his voice echoing across the fleet, "prepare to open fire. Let's show these humans what real power looks like." As both sides prepared for battle, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. In moments, the galaxy would witness a conflict unlike any in its history. Humanity's hour of truth had arrived. The battle for Earth's future, and perhaps the future of the entire galaxy, was about to begin. The vastness of space was shattered by a blinding flash of light. Thousands of energy beams from the Council fleet converged on a single point, the human Dreadnought, Thunderchild. For a moment, it seemed as if the entire universe held its breath. Surely, no ship could withstand such a massive assault. But as the light faded, gasps of disbelief echoed across the Council fleet. The Thunderchild floated, untouched, its strange metal hull gleaming in the starlight. On the bridge of the massive human ship, Admiral Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Shields holding at 98%. "Admiral," her XO reported, a note of awe in his voice. Sarah nodded, then turned to her weapons officer. "They've had their shot. Now it's our turn. Target their flagship. Single cannon, minimum power." Across the battlefield, on the Council's command ship, High Counselor Zixthar stared in horror at the undamaged Thunderchild. "Impossible," he muttered. "Fire again. All weapons." But before the Council fleet could launch a second volley, a beam of pure energy lanced out from the Thunderchild. It struck the Council flagship with surgical precision. There was no explosion, no dramatic fireball. Instead, every system on the massive alien vessel simply stopped. Zixthar's eyes widened as his ship's lights flickered and died. Artificial gravity failed, sending crew members floating helplessly. What happened?" he demanded. His chief engineer, panic in his voice, responded, "High Counselor, they've completely drained our power. Every system is dead. It's like they sucked the energy right out of us." Back on the Thunderchild, Sarah's voice rang out clear and strong. "Attention, Council fleet. That was a demonstration of one of our lesser weapons, at its lowest setting. Your flagship is disabled, but the crew is unharmed. Consider carefully what happens next." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You have two choices. Stand down and accept our terms for peace, or continue this fight and be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." Across the Council fleet, panic spread like wildfire. Ship captains argued with their commanders. Crew members whispered fearfully among themselves. The Thunderchild had just neutralized their most powerful ship with a single shot. How could they hope to fight against such power? On the disabled Council flagship, Zixthar floated helplessly, his mind racing. Pride warred with fear as he considered his options. Could he really surrender to these humans? But could he sacrifice his entire fleet in a hopeless battle? As the minutes ticked by, Sarah watched the Council fleet closely. Some ships were already powering down their weapons. Others seemed to be preparing for another attack. "Stubborn fools," she muttered. Just as the 5-minute mark approached, a transmission came through. It was Krax, the Vorkun representative. "Thunderchild, this is Krax of the Galactic Council. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Sarah nodded to her communications officer, who put Krax on screen. "We're listening," Sarah said simply. Krax swallowed hard before speaking. "We accept your original terms. Sanctions lifted. Hostilities ceased. And Earth will be granted full membership in the Council." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "And the status of our ship, of our technology?" "Recognized as Earth's sovereign property," Krax said quickly. We have no claim on it." Sarah allowed herself a small nod. "Very well. Power down your weapons and recall all fighters. Any ship that fails to comply will be treated as hostile." As Krax's image disappeared, Sarah turned to her crew. Their faces showed a mix of relief, pride, and disbelief. They had done it. They had faced down the entire Galactic Council and won. "Send word to Earth," Sarah ordered. "Tell them it's over. We've won." Cheers erupted across the Thunderchild. In the Council fleet, ships began powering down, their crews still in shock at what they had witnessed. The battle was over. In less than an hour, humanity had silenced their critics and reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. As the Thunderchild turned gracefully and began its journey home, one thing was clear to every alien watching. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 month after the battle that changed everything, the Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly looked very different. The tiered seats were filled with the same alien races as before, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Gone were the sneers and looks of contempt. Now, every eye was fixed on the central podium with a mix of respect, fear, and curiosity. At that podium stood Ambassador Chen Wei, her head held high. Beside her was Admiral Sarah Chen, still in her Thunderchild uniform. And between them, looking slightly overwhelmed but determined, was the President of Earth. "Members of the Galactic Assembly," the President began, his voice strong and clear. "We stand here today, not as conquerors, but as partners. What happened a month ago was not what we wanted, but it was, perhaps, what was needed." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others looked away in shame. The President continued. "For 50 years, humanity reached out in friendship. We were met with mockery and disdain. We were treated as children, as primitives. But we never gave up hope for true partnership." He gestured to the room. "Look around you. Every race here has something unique to offer. Every species brings its own strengths, its own perspective. That diversity is what makes this galaxy great. And now, humanity is ready to add our voice to this grand chorus." In the back of the hall, High Counselor Zixthar shifted uncomfortably. His tentacles, once waving with authority, now hung limp at his sides. The defeat had cost him much of his power, but he had been allowed to keep his position. For now. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. "We have signed new treaties with the Council. Earth is now a full member, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. But more than that, we have pushed for reforms." She held up a datapad. "No longer will any race be treated as second-class citizens in this assembly. A new committee has been formed to review all applications for membership, ensuring fair treatment for emerging spacefaring civilizations." Admiral Chen took her turn to speak. "The Thunderchild remains under Earth's control, but we are willing to share some of our advancements. Defensive technologies that can protect worlds from natural disasters, clean energy solutions, medical breakthroughs." Her eyes scanned the room, meeting the gaze of various alien representatives. "We ask for nothing in return except cooperation and respect. The galaxy faces threats bigger than any one race. Together, we can face those challenges." As the humans spoke, many in the audience found themselves nodding along. The fear of Earth's power was still there, but it was mixed with something new: hope. Hope for a galaxy united not by force, but by mutual understanding and cooperation. Krax, the Vorkan representative who had been one of the first to see humanity's potential, stood up. "If I may speak," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "A month ago, I argued for giving the humans a chance. Many of you laughed at me then." He paused, looking around the room. "I stand here now to say this. Let us not make the same mistake again. The humans have shown both great power and great restraint. They could have demanded anything, taken anything. Instead, they asked for partnership." Krax turned to the human delegation and bowed deeply. "On behalf of the Vorkan people, and I hope many others here, I say this. Welcome, friends. We have much to learn from each other." One by one, other representatives stood. Words of support, of apology, of hope for the future filled the air. Even Zixthar, after a long moment of internal struggle, rose to his feet. "The Council recognizes Earth as a full and equal member," he said, his voice subdued but clear. As the assembly erupted into applause, Ambassador Chen leaned over to Admiral Chen. "Well, sister," she said softly, "we did it." Sarah nodded, a small smile on her face. "We did, but this is just the beginning." The president overheard them and chuckled. "Indeed it is," he said. "We've earned our place at the table. Now the real work begins." As the applause continued, the three humans shared a look of determination. They had faced down the galaxy's greatest powers and emerged victorious. They had turned enemies into allies. And now, they stood ready to help shape a new future, for Earth and for all sentient beings among the stars. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and humanity was ready to embrace its role in the grand tapestry of galactic civilization.